Thank you very much. It's time for public comment. Any public comment? Seeing none, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the November 20th board meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes from the November 20th, 2019 board meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any corrections, comments, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Presentation from the Midtown Venture LLC, if you'd come on forward and present.
How you doing?
Good.
First of all, thank you guys for your time and your patience with us on this. We've been working hard the last couple of months trying to solve some issues with parking, just the feasibility of the project, building layout and whatnot. I thought what I'll do now is I'll just go through this presentation and show you what we've changed. You remember there were two buildings on the ends. You kind of remember that? We put it in the middle here now. The park's on the front. It's a little bit bigger than the other one that we had presented. Let me go down here. Just another, it shows where that orange or red spot is a spot where it's actually where the Paris building is just a little bit left of that. So that's parking that we would need to get from Ignite for parking for this project. With that, we have enough parking for this building. Let's see.
John, how many feet is that? The strip there you're looking at, how many?
Oh, you mean that orange?
Yes,
That's probably 2,500 square feet total.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably 10 feet by,
No, it's about 15 to 18, depending where it's at.
yeah.
Okay.
There's that parking right there is pretty much where the existing parking is. This just kind of shows you the layout of you probably don't need to see this right now, but there's 27 units on 3 floors. Then there's a commercial space on the bottom. Well, I'll go back to this. I think this layout, coming as, you know, the traffic is really just going north there. So coming up Fourth and seeing a park there, and then seeing the building, the glass, I think will be a lot better from aesthetics for the development and the neighborhood than what it was before. If you have any questions, just jump in, but,
John,
Mayor?
yeah.
the size of the green space previous to the size of the green space now,
4,400, I believe now, and it was 4,300,
so just roughly the same size.
roughly the same
Right,
size, yeah.
okay.
I think it'll look bigger, though, as you're coming up the street because of the sidewalks, that's not in between the buildings, so. This just gives you the elevation of the buildings. I really think it's a nicer project, it's gonna be more efficient. Again, I do think, because we do own the junk building there, that for us to submit this project is really a benefit to the city, because somebody else would do it, the junk building would still be there. I was talking to Tony, and just to let you know, we have every intention of tearing that building down, so as a, condition of approval, we would be happy to start that process on both the junk building and the Paris building.
What's your time frame?
We'd like to be able to start construction in April. I mean, Chris is here, you can talk about that. And that's actually a good time to be starting this. The delays we have had actually have been involved with trying to resolve the parking issue with Capone's. And we have the attorneys are negotiating that right now. The building itself, if it was, let's see, go back here. The building footprint there is not on any of the parking or the Capone's supposed easement that they have. So we could proceed with that.
Sorry. Just a sec, one question.
Yeah.
One question for you.
Sorry.
The revision of the apartments, was that market driven or was that?
A little bit of market driven, a little bit of problem with
Space.
the parking situation. We didn't want to get held up And we know you're under a time frame too, so we try to come up with a solution that would work. And in doing so, I actually like this lot better. From a building standpoint and economics, yeah,
It's like a good solution.
I like it.
John, with the issue going on with the parking situation, that's where the green space is going to be. If it doesn't get resolved, how much green space would there be if the parking is not resolved?
We feel we have a solution for the parking,
You
to
do? Okay.
keep the
You're
park there.
confident on that?
Yeah.
Because the green space was kind of an important element of this whole
No,
design.
and I don't think we'd move forward if we couldn't do the
Okay.
green space. And I feel confident that we have a solution.
Good, thank you.
Don't want to really, well, yeah.
Good.
But the attorneys are negotiating it, so.
John, has this new concept been shared with the Midtown stakeholders,
No,
Midtown neighbors?
have not. Unless, no, I have not personally.
Any intention to do so?
Yeah. We did before, so.
Okay.
We've been working hard to get to this point, so. And Tony's been doing a great job, and I appreciate his
Mr. Mayor?
help.
Mr. Chairman. John, as you know, the city purchased a house there for additional parking. That's right
Correct.
next to the existing lot on
Right.
Third Street. And I was talking a bit with Tony, is it may be time where we bring in Troy and your team and Tony, and we talk about possibly developing that space at the same time. I know this, I don't think you've had any conversations with anyone about developing that, but that might be something that when you're having someone there already, and maybe we can piggyback and get that developed as part of this whole project.
No, we'd be open to that. It makes sense.
So I would encourage to reach out to Troy and talk about possibly developing that at the same time, because that will add some significant more spaces to Midtown.
With this plan and with that purchase and the parking you guys have, there's a lot of parking in Midtown. And I think what we're gonna do will really enhance that.
Good. Anything else?
That's all I have, unless you have a question for our builder,
Questions?
Chris, or the architect.
Brad?
I'm kind of curious about that red strip that was the additional parking, so is that, what,
Tony, you want to explain that, or?
I never did totally get that, Tony, so is that
mic'd up
land,
here.
is that land that we're conceding to the project, or is it?
So
What is
the developer will be coming to the board with a request for a lot line adjustment of 2,500 square feet to increase the project footprint. So yes, the agency would be contributing more property to the project. And as I shared my email to you, the impact to the existing 4th Street lot is a reduction of 2 parking spaces. So we'll go from 26 to 24. But that'll allow the project to pick up the number, the stall count that you see there to make the project work from a parking solution.
Is that a reduction of 26 to 24 after the house that we bought from the Rodell family is raised? Or how does that figure in?
Well, as you recall, we didn't buy anything from the Rodell.
Well, the city, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
the
Okay.
city did.
I mean, we the people,
that-
I'm sorry.
The Rodell property is not in this conversation at all.
Okay,
But it could certainly enhance the project, I think, if we move forward with doing that Rodell property and developing that as parking now.
so I would add parking.
Yeah.
Yeah, still, yeah.
So is the change in parking spaces from 26 to 24, the change in the number of public parking spaces available in that specific area?
Yes, if that public parking space, that public parking lot will have a decrease of 2 stalls based on this proposed design.
Okay, and there's no public parking included in your project, John?
No.
No, okay, it's all for the residents and.
I would say, though, as you look at that, just to the
On the-
east of the green space, I mean, I could see people using that as public space, but we're not dedicating that.
Okay.
I mean, you know how
Just wanna
people
be
park
clear.
when they,
Well, when you say no public parking, I mean, so that's for your tenants, but is there also
Right.
enough spots there, there's spots there for guests and things?
yes, oh, yeah,
Okay.
definitely. It's actually a better plan, better parking plan than what was before.
Mr. Chairman?
Mayor.
The green space, Is that something, and maybe this be a question for Tony, is that something that is dedicated, that will always stay green space? So in the project, that's a public space, public green space, is there something that says that will be green space in perpetuity? How will that be?
Put in there.
I've talked to our legal counsel about that, and that's the intent of the development team. And so we would include language in the DDA that would stipulate that it would stay in the public realm, open to the public. Might be privately owned, but open to the public.
Okay.
Yep, we're fine with that, so.
Tony, what's the timing of the request for the 2,500 square foot lot line adjustment? When will that come
That's
up?
all happening right now,
So,
Mr. Harmon.
is it an action item tonight?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to check.
Yes. So this is the first time you're seeing this in a formal board meeting, and that we will need decisions by the board to accept this revision and the additional ask as it's being proposed.
Okay.
Well, I just wanted to kind of check my impressions of this. You know, when I look at the big picture, the original one, going to have two buildings and that kind of green space in between, and a little bit different mix on the retail and units, but it seems like essentially all of the same elements are still there, but in a different configuration, and I agree, that's probably actually a little better spot for the green spot. You know, the potential trade-off of a couple of parking spaces, knowing that we're going to be adding that whole back parking lot from kind of the city side. I think that does make a lot of sense, that if there's a way to kind of coordinate the efforts and keep the ball rolling and kind of, for the sake of the whole Midtown, get it improved while we've got the time, so.
And Eric just pointed out that those two parking spots, a lot of that has to do with some landscaping that we're putting in there to enhance it too, so.
Further questions or comments? Brad's
Well-
got something brewing.
No, I think it's important that land stays open to the public. I mean, there
Oh,
could
yeah.
be some kind of neighborhood events there, something like that, so that's important in the paperwork. So, I'm real sympathetic, you know, to what the developers are going through. It's not easy to do a project in town with all the hoops they're to jump through, and then you've had the parking easement issue and everything else, so. The only thing I'd say, that's been a hot piece of land for the last number of years, and the neighborhood all bought into the one plan. Does anyone see any issues with changing this to one big building instead of two smaller buildings?
We
And
can get to their meeting or get it to them or something, somewhere,
Yeah.
so they can also,
I'm
Weigh in on it,
just
at least.
wondering, yeah, after, with the history of that property.
We're happy to send the plan out to like I did before, to the neighbors, and if you want us to do that.
or to the neighborhood association or whatever it is and get some feedback.
That's not to say if I hear a couple of complaints, that
No.
throws the whole deal. I'm
Nope,
just,
not at all.
I'm,
They've been
Because
involved
we're not
with
trying to
all
hide
these years,
anything.
says we don't want to cut them out now.
I don't know what anyone could do there where there wouldn't be a couple of complaints, but,
There's gonna be some people,
yeah.
always is.
It's just everyone bought into one thing, then tonight we do all this and it's a different plan, so I'm a little cautious about that after what we've been through the last number of years, but I don't want to hold you up. I know you're on a fast time frame here, trying to make all this happen, so.
It'd been
What do
nice
you
to
think?
have some stakeholders here at the meeting to provide input, but not here.
Additional questions or anything? Not sure, you coming back?
Yeah. Give him a second.
So I don't really know how to incorporate the neighborhood. We have
I
a
think we-
decision point tonight.
So what we need to do is we just need to go ahead and move forward with the Second Amendment for the agreement to be negotiated. And just, it's a fluid situation, right, Tony? I mean, this is ongoing.
Well, the issue in front of the board tonight is, we have this as an action item if you should so choose. So you can make a decision tonight accepting this revised program or project proposal, and then we move forward. we extend the A&E to allow the time for the fair use appraisal and try to get this project off the ground in the spring.
Right.
The other course of action, if you want, you can delay this, have more public input if you would like to see if there's any issues, but it's up to you about how you'd like to proceed.
I know timing is important here, so I would just soon keep moving forward.
Yeah, so make a motion to,
I would make a motion to accept the Second Amendment to agreement to negotiate exclusively. Is that it?
I'm sorry, no, we're just on the first motion would be to accept the proposed project revision as presented.
Okay. Sorry. I move that we accept the proposed amended agreement.
I'll second that. Moved and seconded, as presented.
As presented. Correct.
I'd just like to, before we vote, make sure that we confirm with John that you're going to talk with the Midtown group and listen to what they have to say. If there's anything hugely major upsetting to them, that you bring it at least to our attention so that we can be aware of the situation.
Yeah, before we'd sent that plan out before, we're happy to do that again.
We
Okay.
would appreciate that very much.
And they appreciated that, and there wasn't really, didn't have any really negative comments. People were calling
I
and
think
saying,
it
this
just
is awesome. So,
Helps to communicate, I think, is the
Yeah.
big challenge. So
They've been
that
extremely
helps.
involved all those years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Be
thanks for that.
respectful, yes.
If we do a decision tonight, then that's the decision.
Further discussion?
and do we need to put into words anything about the public space, or
That'll be in the,
That's going in the language I
that's going in,
understand.
okay. All right, I second.
Jim seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Now, Tony, we need action on the extension.
Yeah, so the next item would be, since the board just accepted this revised proposal, then we would need to have a motion by the board to extend the agreement to negotiate exclusively. I propose to April 17th, which should provide adequate time for the fair use appraisal to be completed.
I would make a motion that we extend the agreement to negotiate exclusively through to April 17th. Is that adequate verbiage?
Okay.
Second.
Comment? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. That motion carries.
Thank you, guys, appreciate it.
No.
Thank you.
Good looking project.
I agree. I think it looks great.
Next, on to committee reports. Finance Committee, Commissioner Arnold.
Okay. One second. Organized here. Finance reports, okay, starting with the Lake District balance sheet. The Lake District experienced a $12,530 decrease in cash assets from October month end. The receivables due to Atlas District, a $602 increase from October month end, reflecting the Atlas District share of the G&A costs. Other assets were Lake District 2016 Series Note Reserve Account, increase of $87 for the month of November. So obviously, the Lake District's winding down. Liabilities and fund balance, the bonds, no change. All other liability parameters are either unchanged or normal for the month, including a 2% credit to the due to arts line item due to the county increment check received in November. The Lake District P&L, the Lake District received $33,958 in tax increment revenue from the county in November. Miscellaneous income, $5,088 value reflects a rebate from Avista for the North Park Drive subdivision initiative due to the construction of 4 homes in the subdivision within Avista's 5-year rebate period for initial subdivision infrastructure construction costs.
Perfect.
Agency-funded initiatives, Atlas Waterfront Project, Welsh Comer Team, $31,088. Professional fees, primarily legal fees associated with the district initiatives, and all other P&L expenditure line items are in line with a normal operating month. The River District balance sheet, the assets, the River District experienced a $90,334 decrease in cash assets from the month, October month end. The Atlas deposit receivable, $65,000, increased due to additional loan funds to the Atlas District for mill site project work. The liabilities and fund balance, all liability parameters were either unchanged or normal for the month, including a 2% credit to the due to arts line item due to the November county increment check. The River District P&L, the River District received $3,337 in tax increment revenue from the county in November. Agency-funded initiative, Stimson Mill Site Atlas Project Phase 1, $18,760 to the Welsh-Comer team. All other P&L expenditure line items are either in line with a normal operating month with 45% G&A cost share expense. The Atlas District balance sheet assets, the Atlas District experienced $511 increase in cash assets from October month end due to additional loan funds from the River District. The liabilities and fund balance due to the River District, $65,000 increase due to the additional loan funds received from the River District, and due to the Lake District, $602 increase for G&A costs. The Atlas District P&L agency-funded initiative, Stimson Mill Site Atlas Project Phase 1, $64,504 to the Welsh-Comer team. Bank charges of $15 credit due to the reversal of initial bank fee charge for opening a new account. All other P&L expenditure line items are in line with normal operating month with a 5% G&A cost share expenses. That is the financial report for all three districts. And now, payables. First payable item was to Elam and Burke for general legal counsel, mostly to the Lake URD, for the Health Corridor District initiatives for $1,840. General legal counsel for $60, and the Atlas URD District initiatives for $240, for a total to Elam and Burke for $2,140. For Holly Troxel, general legal counsel, $510. From the Lake District, Health Corridor Atlas Waterfront Project and Midtown Project, $1,400. From the Lake District also, Health Corridor Plan legal notices in the Coeur d'Alene Press and document postage, $555. And then the Atlas URD District Initiatives RFP process, $1,675. Total legal costs, $4,140 for the month. Welsh-Comer Professional Services Lake District, updated map and site documents for North Park Drive lot. Tract A sale, $145.30. The Health Corridor Urban Renewal Plan legal description, $4,437. Total payment, $4,582.30. And then the Atlas Mill Site Initiative, Welsh-Comer team at amendment number 5, regulatory and public space planning, $4,044.71. Second of all, Welsh-Comer team amendment number 6, regulatory public space planning, $7,578.38. Welsh-Comer team amendment number 7, waterfront construction services, $25,600. Welsh-Comer team amendment number 8, phase 1 infrastructure design, final plat, $12,474.50. Total for the Atlas Mill Site Initiative, $49,697.50. So total payables for the month are $60,559.89. That is the payables. Questions?
Thank you, sir. I'll make a motion then to approve the Lake, River, and Atlas District financial statements for November 2019 and the payables November, December 2019.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks, that motion carries.
And Tony, you're going to do the audit?
Yes, sir. I'd like to invite Scott Hoover, CPA, to come up and visit with the board and kind of give a summary synopsis of the fiscal year 2019 audit.
Good evening, guys. Status of the audit, I did my fieldwork testing early November, and that went really well. Spent a few days out at their offices, Tony's office. Met with the Finance Committee last Wednesday, and we went over the draft of the financial statements in pretty good detail. Probably went over them for about an hour and just had a good discussion back and forth on the financials. And right now, the draft of the financial statements is in a concurring review. I'm having Anderson Brothers, Tony Hackworth at Anderson Brothers, who they audit the city of Coeur d'Alene. So she's going to review the draft and provide any comments. I'm not really expecting any. And so once I get the draft of the financials back from Tony with her comments, I'll clear those, and then I anticipate being able to issue the final report quickly thereafter. As to the audit results, be issuing a clean audit opinion, unmodified opinion, which means that, in my opinion, the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. And as to the report on internal controls in the back of the report on internal controls and compliance, I did not have any findings with respect to the system of internal controls. So, all in all, as good as you could hope for, and a great audit. Any questions?
Thank you.
Questions or comments?
We'll need a motion to accept the audit as, or the draft audit as presented.
Draft.
I move we accept the draft audit.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All that motion carries.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a million.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Parking update, Commissioner Jordan.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, a short report tonight. Of course, the Diamond Parking was chosen again. They went out to RFPs for parking management. Diamond Parking was chosen again. And after the first of the year, the Parking Commission is going to have a subcommittee, and they're going to work on some housekeeping items and maybe some better, simpler, more easily to understand signage to direct people to the parking lots and so forth. And as far as our revenue, in October, we had $36,135 in revenue, so we were down $1,307 from last year. In November, we had $32,548 in revenue, and we're up $5,562 from last year. So
Excellent.
we're looking pretty good overall. So that's my short report.
Thank you very much. Tony, the Executive Director's report, please.
Atlas Millside Initiative, I'd like to invite Mr. Phil Boyd up to give you an update on the Atlas initiatives, quite a few initiatives going on out there.
Welcome, Mr. Boyd.
Thank you, Chairman Hoskins.
Pretty good weather and low water.
We had a construction meeting today, and that very topic came up, and we were all counting our blessings, because there's a lot of things going on out there. So I'll be brief, glad to answer questions as I move through it. Three things I want to cover: the waterfront park progress, the Phase 1 request for proposals, which are going to be due on Friday from developers, and then talk a little bit about the Phase 1 infrastructure design. So just to refresh everybody's memory, the area that we're working in is from the east end of the project on this side of the road. So the road, the extension of Atlas Road is not part of the project, and it just is along the waterfront here. So that's the project that is currently underway. When I talk about Phase 1, if you remember the phasing, it is in this area here, because I'm going to talk a little bit about the unconsolidated soils that live up there, which we've known were there, but I've got a thought for the board to consider here in a minute. And then, of course, the Atlas Bluff area, we're calling it up in this area. I'll talk a little bit about that.
New name.
New name. So the current work that's going on, if any of you have driven by, you can't necessarily tell what's going on there except at the Atlas Bluff area where Mount Hink is disappearing. But down on the site, there's clearing and grubbing going on, mass grading, and shoreline stabilization prep work. What's coming up, and where La Riviere is totally focused, is doing everything at the ordinary high water mark that they can get done, because they're all worried about, just like we are, the water coming up. We talked to Avista today, the hydrologist at Avista, and they have said that for the foreseeable future, they're going to keep the pool where it's currently at. The dam's open, and so we don't anticipate a big rise in it, but you just never know what the weather would be. But so La Riviere's schedule is totally focused on getting that edge stabilized so they can move out of there. Just a couple photographs to refresh everybody's memory. This is what it used to look like in one part of it. To kind of get you your bearings, that Phase 3 area is, or Phase 1 area is right up in here. And obviously you can see the shoreline there. and this is what it looks like now. All these rocks that you see sitting here, boulders, are what will be used for the shoreline stabilization. So these are actually coming out of a pit on Greens Ferry Road. Interestingly, just some interesting facts about them. The bottom boulders weigh somewhere between 6,000 and 12,000 pounds. And the objective is obviously to stabilize that shoreline edge without having to lay the slope back. And you can see from this picture here, maybe not super apparent, but there's quite a number of trees that came out of here. We had to take them out because they were down on the slope. But had we done this kind of the conventional riprap way, we would have really had to take a lot of trees out of there. Another picture, kind of before. These are taken a little bit of a different angle, but the reason I threw that picture in is if you see the vegetation on the east end of the project right here, and now you can see that's all been removed because the majority of that's going to get turned into a beach. This is also where the accessible swim launch and the kayak launch are located. And then there's just a lot of earthwork that's been going on in this area. And the earth there was unconsolidated, so what that means is it's not suitable to build upon. It has the potential for subsidence over time. Because what the mill did is they would just, go out and push dirt out there, and then they would stack logs on it, and if it subsided for them, it was no big deal. When the city's or Ignite's gonna go put an asset on top of that, you don't want that asset to settle and crack over time. So we've picked up all that dirt and put it back down, but recompacted it in the process. Not all of it, just enough to make it stable. This is another just kind of a big overview of the site. And I think Tony and I have talked a little bit about this, and the mayor and I have talked about it as well. At some point, it might be fun for the board to go down there just to get the magnitude of the endeavor out there, because it is a substantial endeavor. It's another view of the site. You can see this is the area that used to be completely covered with vegetation. It's a little bit misleading because the water is so low. The water would typically be right up in here. But you can envision, I think, the end of the parking lot is kind of right in this area, which typically we would not design parking lots so close to the water's edge. But one of the important design features here is giving accessibility to folks to get to the kayak launch here and to get to the ADA swim access down here. So there's literally like a handicap parking spot right there. And so their distance of travel will be very short to get from here. If they're in a wheelchair or walker, they can make their way down the path and then get into a structure that allows them to get themselves into the water. And it has safety rails on it. And then they can go swimming in here. And this whole area will be protected by a log boom. You guys probably remember some of this stuff. This is the Mount Hink operation. And so the origin, I think I talked about this in a prior discussion with the board, the origin of this endeavor was that trying to find out there ways to save money, and topsoil is a big component of a park project, obviously. And so Le Riviere provided a bid number, and it's in their pricing, and they said, hey, by the way, if we can use the material out of Mount Hink, we'll be able to substantially lower our topsoil number. So we said, have at it if you want to, at your own risk, go test the soils out there. And so they tested the soils. Bill Greenwood went out. We looked at them. They ran it through this device right down here, which is essentially a shaker. It's got screens in it. The raw materials get fed in one end, and then they're separated. And so off of this are coming 3 products. One is the topsoil, which is primarily what we were after. The second product is this 1.5" minus material that you kind of see here. And then a third product is a 12" minus material over here. Now where we're headed, subject to testing, is we intend to reuse at least this pile of material here and the topsoil, maybe not the 1.5", because it's what we call it's gap graded. It's kind of all one size, so it's like marbles. And it doesn't compact well. But the whole point of this is the proposal we expect to get back from Le Riviere will substantially lower the cost of the soil materials while also solving a problem for us. That whole concept may also spread back into this area and all this other material in here, because La Riviere obviously wants to make a proposal to Ignite to potentially continue on working in here. If it solves a problem for us at a low cost, that might be a positive thing.
It's nice to see that much rock in there.
Yeah, it's, and we had done test holes out here, and I think, as you guys know, have been involved with this before. You go out there and you dig a test hole, and it's not huge, but you get out there, dig a test hole, and you pull up wood debris, and then there's some good material, then there's some more wood debris, and of course, the engineers and the geotechs all freak out and say, what are we gonna do with this, because it's got wood debris in it. When La Riviere moved out there, and you can see the amount of equipment out there, and those of you that have met Tommy La Riviere, he loves playing in dirt, and so he's out there, and they're excavating massive excavations out there and hunting around, and so he essentially went and prospected in all these different piles, found the best pile, and then started screening it. And so, admittedly, we're working on the best pile, but there's indications that even this pile here has some good material in it. As you get further east, some of the material's not so good. It's got a little bit too much topsoil in it, which would be good if you're mining topsoil, but for structural soils, it's not great.
Is there a market for that?
That's one of the things that La Riviere is going to propose to Ignite is one big package where they would come in here and say, we'll remediate this, take all these soils, separate them out, and we'll do it at our own cost, and we'll sell it on the open market if you give us a certain amount of time, and here's the royalty we would propose to pay back to Ignite. So we're in the process of having those discussions with him. He obviously would want time to sell that topsoil. You guys are probably willing to accept a certain amount of time, but then there would have to be a sunset, and it would have to be moved off-site. So there's quite a bit of activity in here. Unusual to have a contractor do that, but Tommy La Riviere is kind of an entrepreneurial guy, and so I think he sees and he's community-minded. He's really attached himself to this project, and so he's really working hard to try to figure out how to do some of these other things to solve a problem that's, it would be great to have solved.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman? So while we're on this subject, what do you anticipate the end result would be on Mount Heath? Do you think that would be excavated down enough, we could get to the point where we had stable soil to build something there?
Not here,
Okay.
but because I don't think it's suitable soils. Let me scroll back if I could, Commissioner Jordan, and show you on this picture. If you envision, and you might remember the rock pits, when these were originally mined, the top of the pit, so if you were standing looking into the pit that was here historically in the 50s, was kind of like that. There was two more that were here, and then another really big one right here. So at some point in the process, as I was working through the economics of this, it occurred to me that if we went in and remediated the edges of the pit, so kind of from the top of the pit down to -10, you can economically remediate that. But when you start to get into -20, below the existing ground, -30, the costs really go up because there's just so much more equipment time involved with it. Which is why I had developed this layout here where this part right here, where it's shown as grass, is really deep, unsuitable material. And as you go this way, it gets deeper, so the park has to get wider, but it allows you to build homes along the edge like this, or commercial products. So that was where we're headed now. With La Riviere on site, and if we can get the economics to work, it's possible we could remediate in this entire thing completely and make it a suitable structural site. All the unsuitable material would get pushed into this corner, into the Atlas Bluff, where the depth, how deep the unsuitable goes, is very deep. It's about -60 from if you were standing out there on the site now. So that's kind of where we're headed. But to be able to give the board a complete story, we've got to get some pricing out of La Riviere. La Riviere, of course, wants to continue processing material because he's trying to figure out, if I take a cubic yard of material, do I get, half a cubic yard of junk and half a cubic yard of good material, or do I get 3/4 of good material I can sell and a 1/4 yard of reject? The objective would be to find a place to put all of it. all the material that you see in this picture would be to find a place to put it. We're encouraging them to take this material, which I told you was like marbles, to blend it with other materials, because if they blend it, we'll get fine-grained soils in it, and we could probably use it somewhere on the site in a deep section. So lots of moving parts and lots of energy put towards trying to find a solution sooner than later on this part of the site. Long-winded answer, but hopefully it gave you the correct picture.
Yeah, so over the years, there's unsuitable soil, chunks of wood, stumps, anything they could have thrown in there over the years in parts of that.
Yep. Yep. And we're finding portions of that down on the
Bill,
site as well.
Question. Tommy, how long has he requested for time to sell this topsoil? Has
He hasn't. And part of it is just to get a quantification of how much material is out here. And again, using this example here, if there's 5,000 yards of material, is he going to generate 4,000 yards of topsoil, which has a certain market rate, in 1,000 yards of structural soil, which has a different market rate, and then he would have to project forward, where can I use topsoil? So we'll see how that comes together. We're pushing on him to put this together, because I'd rather bring it forward to the board sooner than later to get some direction. He's also got his hands full, everyone's scared of the water, so we're kind of totally focused on getting out of the way of the water as soon as we possibly can.
Bill, do you think it's going to make a difference once you see who the bidders are? I mean, 2 days from now, there's going to be the bids. You'll have a better understanding of maybe who you're going to be working with and what maybe some of their needs might be.
I think so, and just in the process, I guess, and you've segued me into the update on the Phase 1 RFP. There's 5, I've just characterized them, how many people that we, and when I say we, Heartland, has been primarily talking to, and I've been involved when there's a technical question. So there's been a total of about 9 developers, builders we've been talking to. 5 of them appear to be seriously planning to submit. You never can tell. 3 are local, 2 are kind of in the regional area. There's a median probability on 1 of them, and then 3 of them have decided they're just not going to submit. Primarily, they didn't have time. They started on it a little bit too late, even though Heartland was pushing on everybody pretty hard. They just decided that they're not going to submit. Of the 2 or 3 that we've talked to up in this high probability area, we've had a lot of that dialogue where they've said, well, what about this? And we said, well, I'm sure we might be able to provide and economically help you with some of those things, depending on what your final proposal looks like and when we get to the negotiation phase. So I think that there'll certainly be some of that going on. I guess that might sum up the discussions on the RFP. Lots of good questions from the folks that have been submitting on this. And the thing that Heartland has said to me that's been promising to them is that they're digging in deep and asking a lot of intelligent questions that indicate that they're being serious about putting the proposal together, which is a positive sign. On the Phase 1 design, which again is...
Phil, just...
Yes, sir.
Just question. How many of them are looking at just Phase 1 versus multiple phases, or do you have any feel for that at all?
I don't have a feel for it. What we have done is we have been as, I don't know if encouraging is the right word, but as forthcoming in answering their questions as we possibly could. They're trying to figure out, if they get into Phase 1, how quickly would Ignite be able to move into Phase 2 infrastructure? And then if they get through Phase 2, how quickly can Ignite move through Phase 3 infrastructure? And talking through it with Tony, the idea we have given them is we would move as fast as they need to move to make sure if they want to come in and propose on the whole site, or if they're going to come in and take the whole site over and take all the infrastructure over. That's another idea that has been vetted, and we've tried to be as forthcoming as possible as that, point all the challenges with the infrastructure so they can have a really good idea of what they're getting themselves into if they take it on. We have been living it for a couple of years now, so we know all the details. They're living it for a short period of time, so I'm trying to spill my guts to them so they can make good economic decisions, not encourage them to buy the whole site, but make sure if that's something they're thinking about, we want to encourage that. I think that was a vision that Tony had, because it would simplify your life.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then on the phase one design, now this is the part of the infrastructure that we're moving forward with a design and potentially constructing it if one developer doesn't buy the whole site. The reason we need that done is because we have to final plat, and we can't final plat until we have the infrastructure designed and approved by the city. We'll get that done, final plat at the first part of the year, and then to the developers, you would actually sell the property at that point, because currently you can't sell the property. So we're forging ahead on that. There's a big section which we've known as of unconsolidated material out here, which typically, if you were doing the entire site, designing everything and building it yourself, you'd go in and you'd deal with the whole site. One of the challenges the board has is a big portion of this is the Atlas District, which doesn't have much money in it. And then the River District is a part of it. That's been funded, the construction has been funded, or budgeted, I guess is the correct word, for the current fiscal year. But if you're going to go do the site remediation work as part of a future infrastructure project, it means you gotta put it out to bid, and, now the scrapers will go away as part of this project and then come back. Of course, it's more cost-effective to just have the scrapers keep moving dirt and deal with this. So that's one of the other things that we'll probably bring back in January, is for the board to consider having La Riviere remediate that area. And the way it would be attractive is if it's going to be lower than what you could get on the open market if you put it out to bid. And we know what those numbers are because we negotiated 2 contracts with La Riviere and Cameron Riley. So hopefully that's all making sense. We're just trying to leverage every opportunity we can to save money on the project, because there's undoubtedly something we're going to dig up that it's going to cost a bunch of money. And we have a contingency, but I would just prefer to try to save money to prepare myself to deal with the thing we're bound to dig up here, which we've already dug up a big section of unsuitable material there. One of the scrapers was going through there, and I don't want to say it just about disappeared, but it was a big section of wood and topsoil and all kinds of stuff. So we actually over-excavated this an additional 7 feet. So we were way the heck down in there hogging material out of it. So that's the other thing we're working hard on, and then the infrastructure design, just to satisfy the plating requirements. So that is the update, unless there's additional questions.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank
Hey,
you, Phil.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Phil.
Just one brief initiative update on the Memorial Grandstand. I talked to Bill Greenwood today, and progress is continuing. If you've driven by it, you've seen the dugout earthwork going on there, new support beams going up, new roof trellises being put in right now, and Bill said it's still on plan to be done late spring 2020. They haven't hit any other super major issues. A few things are popping up, but if they have a decent winter, and I think he hopes to have NIC playing out there this spring.
I'm going to be at the first game.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. It's time for board commissioner comments.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to thank Tony for seeing the Park Drive project all the way through. I think when we started the project, we were kind of wondering what we were getting ourselves into. And when Tony worked through the whole project, got all 10 of the lots platted and closed the 10th lot. And now we have 10 lots, which are soon to be 10 really nice homes, all back on the tax rolls, which is nice. Anyway, Tony did a great job on that. I just wanted to
Thank you. I was thinking about that, Mr. Mayor, when you and Tony and I were at that Fort Grounds Neighborhood Association meeting, and we were telling them about the plat, and then Welch Comer built it, and so we have it on paper, we see it, and now it's the last lot is sold. It's been years, but it's pretty
Yeah.
nice.
So-
And we got a rebate from Avista because we have some lots built, some houses built.
Yeah, we get,
Excellent.
if the way I understand it is, if a home is built on those lots within 5 years of the infrastructure put in, we get a little over $1,000 rebate per lot. So we got 4 homes being built, so we got that $5,000, and if the rest of them get built within 5 years, we'll get some more money back.
Nice. Other comments? I would like to make one. I just wanted also like to thank Tony and all the board members and Danielle for all of the hard work to put the Health Corridor Urban Renewal District together. That was another huge project. That was a great fight that we all fought, and just thanked everybody for their hard work. And I know that Tony took quite a few bullets on that one and stood there professionally and diligently, and it'll be another great project going forward.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would just add that we are at completion on the Health Corridor Urban Renewal Plan. We delivered today to all the taxing entities their recorded ordinance and required documents. So it's officially done before Christmas, which I'm happy
Before
about.
the year's end.
Good job.
All right, thanks, Danielle.
Yes, thank you to everybody.
Now, public comment. Last comment, or last time for public comment there, Mr. Boyd. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Oh, seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Happy holidays, everybody. We're adjourned.
Happy holidays.
Yeah, see you next year.